Okay. Let's go. You guys know the rules.
No rules.
It's rules.
So, first topic for today. Military has been cut. What do you think about the cutting?
Who you
Who are you asking?
What?
Who are you asking?
Mr. Stump Grinder.
No.
Sir.
I think Obama has weakened the military. Look, he has weakened it. Like, we're losing in China. We're losing in the Middle East. We haven't won anything. And look, I don't like the cutting, but I also don't like neocon ideas, like things that Mario Rodriguez had said. He supported the war in Iraq and increased military spending. I mean, look, I'm not a huge fan of military cuts, but I also don't like military like invasions and aggressive foreign policy like Reagan or the Bush doctrine. So overall, I'm not a huge fan of the cuts, but we shouldn't like spend too much money. So that's what I think.
Marco Rubio, what do you have to say? Not Marco Rubio.
Mario Rodriguez.
Mario Rodriguez. What do you have to say about these about this harsh attack by Mr. Stump Grinder, sir?
You know, military is a situational need, and in times of war, you need to increase it, and when there's peaceful times, that spending can be decreased. So you really have to read the situations in your interactions with other countries, and influence military spending based on what you see happening in the country.
Mr. Cortez?
So our nation, our military since World War II, we are the strongest nation that has military. We beat the USSR, we beat the Nazi, and right now we still have conflict with Russia on ISIS. So none of these two are talking about ISIS right now. So why don't these two talk about ISIS? I believe that if I become the president, I can, and I will make our military become stronger, and we will beat ISIS instead of Russia.
Well, so what's your plan for dealing with ISIS?
Even though I don't have any experience on military, but if I become commander-in-chief, I can make sure it will happen.
So basically, you have no plan right now.
Wait, you're Senator Cortez, right?
Yeah.
Senator Cortez, how do you stop a group that you don't even know where they live, where they reside? They're everywhere. How are you gonna stop them?
I don't believe everywhere. I believe that if we attack on their stronghold, Syria, they live in Syria. I believe that if we bombard them.
Isn't this a racist allegation?
No.
All Syrians are terrorists?
No, I said they live in Syria, not like Syrian people.
But if you're gonna bombard Syria, Syrian people are gonna die as well. The innocent Syrian people.
Wow.
I'm a bastard instigator. I see. On to the next question. Alright. Or actually, what are you two's? Or let's start with Mr. Stump What's your plan for ISIS? Do you believe they're a threat to our country?
I mean, look, ISIS, they're not, I mean, I guess they are a threat. I mean, they bomb, like, people and such. But right now, I think we just focus on bombing them. I mean, we shouldn't just invade Iraq. We did it twice already. I mean, it failed. We just need to keep on bombing them. And we also need to collaborate with Russia. I mean, Putin. We need to make deals with them. Like, you have no idea. Like, we become friends, not enemies with people. So I support if the whole world unites in one, I think we can defeat ISIS. But we shouldn't just go invade it, so that's our plan.
So like, so you talk about Iraq, that happened during George Bush, and that was not a really very successful. So you're saying that like George Bush plan on attacking Iraq is not a successful?
It was terrible. You like Bush?
Oh, I used to work for him.
You like Bush?
I used to work for him.
Look, you were on Bush's campaign team, and you're the only one out of top 5 who wasn't even in his cabinet. So he hates you, man. He hates you. Like, you have no idea.
Mr. Rodriguez? Sir?
Are we still talking about ISIS?
Yeah.
You know, I do see ISIS as a threat, but like you said, we don't know where they're at. So this is a war that needs to be fought different than wars in the past, like they mentioned Iraq and all the Bush attacks. We need to fight this through media and have them break themselves down by not getting any new recruits. This is a propaganda war that we're fighting more than a physical attack.
All right, on to the next question. How can America be kept safe and how to make the economy stronger? How can we make the economy stronger?
You guys see me?
Senator Cortez.
Oh. So, like I used to say that, like we are Republicans. We help the business. We have lots of business. And I, one of the working class, I believe that if we help the working class, it will happen. So my plan is to that we will lower the price of expense instead of increase the minimum wage. Since you know that if you increase the minimum wage, inflation will happen. So that's not a great idea to increase it. Instead, we will lower it. I will lower the tax and price.
Mr. Sumgrander.
Look, the US has the highest corporate tax rate in the industry world, like 35%. That's really high. I think we should cut that to around 20% maybe. I don't know. But that will increase investment spending, which will therefore increase the GDP of our country. So I support cutting taxes for everyone, basically. So.
What did this country what did it put this country more in debt?
I mean, look, you have a point, but if the economy grows with lower taxes, then they'll actually offset all those deficits spending. So.
Senator Rodriguez.
I think we need to support more small businesses and increase competition so we can give more people jobs and more industry and more young people working, and that will benefit our economy greatly.
Awesome. The gap between the rich and the poor is increasing. What will you do in your term to stop the growing income inequality?
Yeah.
Senator Rodriguez.
Well, like I mentioned, with the more small business, I think that would also help this problem. The more people you get jobs for, the more income we have in our country, the more we can support these people and get them working and getting their own incomes. So we don't have to support them for long. We just get them started and then they can work for themselves.
Senator Cortez.
I believe that if we increase small businesses, it creates more jobs for working class people, and that will decrease the gap between rich and poor.
Mr. Sumgrander.
Look, in my tax plan, the middle and poor class get the biggest pay cut. Like my class, like I actually pay more taxes in percentage-wise than the people in the poor and middle class. So there's still some sort of progressive taxation happening. So with small taxes for the middle class, then there'll be more businesses and more money. Progressive taxation.
So what are your opinions on gun control?
Gun control. I'm not a huge fan of gun control right now. I mean, right now our system is okay. I mean, I think people on the left, they're spreading lies. The U.S. has the most guns than any place in the world, but the U.S. has actually, I believe it's out of 190 countries, 110th in murder rates. So they're saying that, oh, more guns, more murders. That's not true. Like in Mexico, like in Guatemala, where guns are banned, they have the highest murder rate in the entire world. So this argument that more guns equals more murder is completely false. So right now I wouldn't place any more gun control on it. And I'm tired of Obama's executive order on gun control.
Mr. Cortez?
So I believe in Second Amendment. I believe that every American citizen have rights to bear arms. I believe that guns will do no harm to our own people. I believe that guns will protect our nation. I believe that will protect our nation. It will not cause any trouble or violence.
Yeah, like both my competitors said, I also don't believe that the guns are the problem. I support the minimum amount of gun control and restriction. I myself own a weapon, and I think anyone who's murdering, the problem goes further back than them owning a gun, and we need to get them mental help, because they would have done it with or without a weapon, or they would have got a weapon illegally.
So what are you guys planning to lift up all these bans that's already in play?
Well, I'm going to take off any of the restrictions that they've been placing, Obama's been placing, and give more liberty to people who want to own weapons, and start to progress forward in freeing guns.
So I have a question for you. What do you mean by no restriction on guns?
Well, people who buy guns would have them registered in their name, and there would still be a minimum or a minimum age where you could own a gun.
So you say no restriction on that?
No, those would still be in place.
Yes.
Anybody else? Opinion?
Senator Rodriguez, if we lower gun restrictions, it's true that the people who have the intentions to murder will still have those same intentions, but don't we give them an easier means to be successful in it once we loosen those restrictions?
You would be giving them easier opportunity, but if you target this problem before they attack anyone or hurt anyone, and get them the help they need to stop that drive, then there wouldn't be as much murder. So I do agree that there's a problem with violence in this country, but the guns would not, limiting gun control or adding gun control would not be the solution here.
How would you will you stop it earlier than it happens? Is that what you're saying?
If possible, yes.
How?
Well, targeting people that have those sort of characteristics of someone with violent tendencies, and getting them psychological help at a younger age and earlier, and hopefully limiting violence that way.
These programs are going to be expensive. How do you look to fund it?
All of Stump Grinder's money.
So taxing the rich?
That's right, yeah.
That doesn't seem like much of a Republican idea. Very interesting.
Well, thank you.
Any questions? Alrighty. Wait. Okay, wait. Large corporate companies are taking advantage of minimum wage workers, and the cost of living are rising. How will the minimum wage workers be compensated by these outside forces?
Could you repeat that question?
Large corporate companies are taking advantage of the hard work minimum wage workers do. Cost of living are rising, and the minimum wage isn't changing. How will the workers be compensated by the outside forces?
I believe that if we promote local businesses and small businesses, then that will help create jobs, and that would help the poor on.
But this is about the people who already work. They have a job. They have a job.
Then my plan is to lower the price. Like I said, I don't believe in increased minimum wage will help the poor.
How will you lower the prices? The government doesn't have control.
Yeah, when you please do price floors, Stephen?
I would say the government limit the price.
How's that gonna work? So you want more government regulation? Oh my gosh.
Or do you have any plan, Mr. Stumpf?
Yeah, I mean, cut taxes on the small business. I mean,
Taxes on small
Cut
business.
taxes. Yeah.
That's the worst idea.
No, that's a great idea. You don't place government
So that's
regulations on
really,
prices.
that's really a Democrat idea on like.
No,
cut
you're a
taxes.
Democrat because you don't place price restrictions. Cut taxes. That's conservatives. We can't.
What about the rich? You
No,
still
cut
tax the
taxes.
rich.
No.
You still tax the rich. That's not equality at all.
Well, you don't place price floors and
So how low are we talking about when you say cut the taxes?
taxes. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but all I'm saying is that the middle class, they pay too much taxes right now. I think we should lower it. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Just for the middle class?
I mean, and for the corporation, because right now corporations are leaving this country because the corporate tax rate is way too high, 35%. It's really high. So we need to lower that, and the corporation will eventually come back to America and bring more jobs.
You guys have any more questions?
Do you think we should allow same-sex marriage? Mr. Zuckerberg.
I mean, look, I'm fine with the current laws right now. So, yeah, that's my current position, and I'm not going to overturn any Supreme Court rulings on gay marriage.
So you believe it should still be a state?
I mean, right now it's not a state issue. Right now it's a federal issue, but I'm not going to change any laws regarding it.
Senator Cortez.
I don't believe in same-sex marriage. I believe I'm a Christian person, and same-sex marriage was not in my ideal.
What about it?
We should defend the sacrament of marriage in our nation. It's in our belief. It's not liberty. It's in our belief, in our mind.
So basically, you're against the idea of the separation between the church and the state.
Yes.
You're against that. See, this guy is a Christian dominionist. He wants Christianity imposed. He'd radically impose on everyone.
If there is no
You support
Christianity, this nation will not be born. I believe that.
No, this nation was born.
One nation under God. Individual.
Scotch it there.
What about you, Senator Rodriguez?
You know, whether I believe in same-sex marriage or not doesn't exactly matter because the position I hold in office is to support your beliefs, the people. So I think by state, whatever you vote for, I'll support, and I'm not here to make decisions for you. I'm here to protect the choices the American people make.
Awesome. You can deliver your opening and closing statements. Yeah.
Who first?
We'll go left to right.
So, like, closing statement or opening statement?
Yes,
Closing.
sir.
Closing statement. Okay.
Closing.
No, like opening and closing.
It would be an interesting sort of artistic piece of you getting opening and
Oh, yeah, look. We are losing in everything. We're losing on trade. We're losing on immigration. We're losing in everything. And believe me, when I'm president, we'll start winning. We'll win in trade, win in immigration, win on everything. Like, win so much, you'll get sick and bored of winning. And when I'm president, our nation will be great again. Thank you.
Mr. Cortez.
When I look at America, I see people who are filled with hopes and dreams in the freest land in the earth. This election is not our debate. It's not about insult or attack. This election is about you people and your children's freedom in America and making sure that that freedom and rights is preserved for our next generation. Our rights do not come from government, they come from God. Believe in God, believe in God. God bless America, people.
Senator Rodriguez.
You know, America has the potential to be the greatest country on earth. And it's up to the people of America to facilitate that happening. So I leave it up to you and your wise decisions to elect the right person to make America great. Thank you.
All right.
All right, that concludes the Republican Republican debate. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm going to ask your press officers to join me over here in the post-debate spin zone. I'm also going to ask members of the media to come as well. You can pose your questions for these candidates at this time. Find out how, or sorry, for the campaign. Find out how each campaign team is feeling about their candidate's performance. Come on over. Media and press officers, please. Media, you get props. Really fancy ones. Here, Daniel. Here's your mic. Put that in someone's face.
Okay.
Just like, you know,
Jolene and Jennifer.
just like, look at
Do not look back in the chat.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
What in the world? You spammed the whole screen therapy. What did it happen?
All members of the media have a marker here. All right. This is different. You're going to want to give some tasks to credit here. Here you go. There's yours. All right. So, traditionally we want the media to be the ones that are really like, you know, pressing the campaigns for access. But we'll start with Daniel, and then anybody else who has a question can just chime in. You can ask any of these members of these campaigns what they think about their candidate's performance tonight.
Wait, us too?
No. Well, actually, if they want to interview a moderator, that's fine. Start us off, Daniel. Who you got a question for?
Oh yeah, you guys can interview me. Me.
Any of these campaign members can also interview a moderator if you would like to. So I believe Joseph's here from the Stump Grinder campaign, if you're wondering. Alvin is here from Team Cortez. And is here from Team Rodrigo.
Go on and try to skip some, try to go to a boom.
Thank you. I would start with Honor, a surprise switch on candidate. I thought their new candidate did amazingly well. What do you want to ask about?
I guess I'll ask that. Okay, so what did you think of the surprise switch to candidates for this debate?
I think he did very well, and he showed his clear views, and it's a very positive attitude.
That's so unfortunate. Oh my.
This one.
It's weird.
All right, who else wants to get a statement for the campaign?
I have a question for Stump Grinders camp. Media. Press officer. Press officer, thank you. How do you feel about him #winning in an allusion to Charlie Sheen? That comparison. Winning? Didn't you know that was a thing? I'm very.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
You don't know about that?
What?
Align himself with Charlie Sheen, #winning. There was that whole tiger blood thing that.
I remember it.
See, I remember. Who remembers it? Like that was a thing. Okay.
I feel like I did.
No sauce was that just.
Well, if you
coincidence?
just mean the fact that my candidate is winning, I feel pretty good about that because it's pretty awesome.
Jennifer, what questions do you have for one of these campaign teams?
I don't have a question right now.
Okay. Anybody else? So this is where I'd really want to see a little bit of the media playing their particular roles as well. Like maybe my more liberal press asks some real loaded, more negative questions about the campaign. Maybe my conservative press pitches the real softball questions and says, you know, isn't it clear that God is with all of your campaigns tonight?
Okay, I have a question for the rep from Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
What is your opinion on Mr. Cortez's statements when we talked about gay marriage or same-sex marriage, and I was wondering also if he had any information on how he would want to live it, what his plans were for, like, if he didn't want same-sex marriage to be allowed in this country. What's your opinions on that and Nate and his statements?
I'm also tested.
My opinion is that he's just been stating what he believes in, and that's something important for candidates who sometimes would kind of obscure their own truth in order just to get elected.
So you're saying that he's not obscuring his own truth, he's
Yes.
just following his beliefs?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, anything else from the press? All right, thanks, you guys can be seated. We're gonna get ready to hear now from the press. So when the Democrats are ready, you got your podium. And we'll get our stand from our moderators. I'm enjoying the comments on the feed most that actually have to do explicitly with politics.
Yeah, so like, I just came up with like random things I really wanted to say. That's the reason why.
So there's a spot for notes specifically on the Democratic debate as well. And it looks like our candidates are ready.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
Got him. I like the way he plays.
By the way, while we're down here, I was super impressed with all three.
You guys did this.
Oh, yes.
Shout out to Nate, who literally like got hand emojis down.
As well as the actual phrase, "We don't win at anything anymore."
A million.
And deep knowledge of the opponent's history, referencing unprotected working with the Bush campaign. That's real.
I guess like whenever you post one, you can do like hashtag campaign slogan.
Are you going? Get started?
Alright. So we're gonna go sort of the same structure as the Republican. So Valerie Swinton, military has been cut. What do you think about cutting military?
Personally, I support the cutting of military, at least the spending that we're doing. I think it's unnecessary at this point. The United States is already known for having an amazing military, and I personally believe we need to be getting involved in less wars. Going into these countries and fighting with violence is not the way that we should be doing this. There are alternatives, and those alternatives do not correspond with spending more money and more on things like guns.
Do you think the terrorists can be like, oh, I'm sorry, since you apologize and do this?
I think you wouldn't go into the situation looking at it like that. What we can do is we can support people who are in Syria and people who are in those war-torn countries, and we can support their government, people who are uncorrupt there, and we can help them develop their military and see how they can help fight it off instead of doing it ourselves. And I think, of course, there's always a point where you do have to get involved. If it is threatening to the United States, or if it's becoming a major conflict, I think there's always a possibility for involvement, but I think first you need to try and strengthen the military in those countries.
That could be a problem because that's how ISIS started.
How are you going to support the government in Syria when the revolutions are because of the government?
Well, I think it's not always.
By dictator Bashar al-Assad.
I do.
So you seem very uneducated in this matter.
I am familiar with the situation in Syria. Thank you for educating me.
Anytime.
But what I'm saying is not directly supporting that government. There are rebels who are doing the wrong thing. There's ISIS doing the wrong thing. The government's doing the wrong thing. I think we need to bring in maybe another group of people, something. I'm not saying we support the current government, because I do agree with you. I think there's a lot going wrong there right now. But I don't think how to solve this issue is by just bombing them. I think there are other alternatives and other things we can support And I think that's a much better alternative than going in with violence.
Just a quick reminder, one of the criteria on the rubric is task is written or delivered with appropriate tone, and I feel like our candidates are doing a great job of that, but moderators also want to have appropriate tone.
How about, no offense. Okay, I had a really good follow-up question, but you messed it
Oh,
up.
I was, I'm sorry.
I just told him. Sorry.
What are your ideas about Larry Anderson?
All right. Well, first, I'd like to start off with a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "I advocate preparation for war in order to avert war." And I think he has the right point. We obviously need a strong military, and there's no doubt about that. But we have a lot of wasteful spending. We are trying to develop new technology that's just not working. And when we have a failing VA system, we could use that spending and cut it to fund the troops. If we're gonna have wars, we should at least fund the people that get hurt. That's what we should tell these countries, like Saudi Arabia, which has like one of the second or third biggest military, most funded military, to fight their own wars. Because these affect them. These are their people. We have to change the mindset of these countries, because the way it is right now, there are lots of tribes. That's kind of how it is. There are lots of tribes, and they're not a people. They're different people under a government that we try to impose on them, but it's not working. Because they hate each other. They hate everybody. They hate the different religions, and it's not working out. So we should have Saudi Arabia try to fight their own problems, and we should use funding to try to promote education and things like that, and try to bring them in unison with each other. That's what I believe.
I think it's hard to learn while they're bombing us.
Well, they're bombing us. Who's bombing us?
Other enemies.
We're bombing the United States?
Good, if you weaken the military.
We're gonna cut useless spending. We already have helicopters and jets, and we're trying to use this money to build new
So
ones.
does our enemy.
Have helicopters and jets? ISIS?
Not ISIS. They can steal.
They could.
They stole military intel.
Yeah, I guess you're not
There's word on the street that they're buying nuclear weapons already.
What, did Trump tell you that? Stump?
Something.
Who told you that?
As president, do you guys look to be more involved in foreign relations or less involved?
Well, I think obviously you need to be involved. You're not going to get people like North Korea and Iran or whoever our enemies are to talk to you if you shut the door on them. You need to keep it open so they at least put their foot through and see if it feels right. Okay?
As former Secretary of State, I can without a doubt say that foreign policy is definitely one of the things that I would love to be involved in these coming years. I think especially with all the terrorist attacks we've been seeing, that is going to be one of the biggest decision makers coming up in this election cycle. We've seen things like the Paris attacks. We see things horribly going wrong in countries like Syria every day. And we really need to start focusing on those relationships and strengthening them.
So let's say that there was an attack on United States soil. What would be your reaction to it?
First of all, let me point out, 2001, when 9/11 happened, it was a tragic time. And the great thing, one good thing that did come out of that was that we had unity. People came together. But the problem is, we were too hasty, and we started two wars, one after another, and people that weren't even really the bad guys at the time. We did bomb the terrorist training camps, which was good, but then we went in there, wasted trillions of dollars, and got a lot of our people killed. We were just too hasty. We need to think these things out. We can't just blame people right away.
What do you mean, think these things out?
Well, let me give you an example. We tried to connect Iran with 9/11, but they weren't related. So we started a war with them, hoping that it would stop these terrorist groups.
What war? Who's John?
We started a war with Iraq.
Who's John?
Yeah.
John. You are? Yeah.
Just too hasty, and we spent so much money. So many of our people died, and we don't have proper VA funding. So now they're just sitting there, sick, dying, wounded. It's disgraceful.
What about you, Secretary?
What about me?
Like, in response to the question.
I completely agree with what Senator Anderson is saying. I think especially after a horrific event like 9/11, there were very hasty decisions made by our president. You know, we also saw things with, you know, immediately after 9/11 happened, there was a lot of surveillance on US citizens. They were able to pass these laws because people were scared, because they let themselves get scared by these terrorists. And I completely agree. I think when you're put in that moment of panic as president, sometimes they make the wrong decision. And I think the only thing that can prepare you for that is experience, and just having, you know, confidence in your decisions.
Might I point out that Secretary Swinton also voted for both of those wars? I did not.
Like I said, at the time, the only way to learn from doing those things is by learning from your mistakes.
Russia already
I
paid
agree.
it.
I agree. Looking
Russia
back on
tried
that,
that
I
in the
think those
80s.
were bad decisions. But that's why I'm prepared to not make those decisions again. I know, I've seen it happen. Firsthand, I was involved in the government during that time.
So was
And I know they were bad decisions. And I can look back on that and say that with confidence and know that I will not be doing that
So
again.
could I at the time when I didn't vote for him. If you open a history textbook, you can see that Russia already tried those wars and they failed. You can't change their mindset by bombing them or invading them with our troops.
And that's where I stand today.
All right, well,
I am
I'm
with
glad
you on that
finally
mission.
changed your mind.
So, Mrs. Swinton, why should the American public vote for you if you just suddenly made these